your Mayor Steve Cretney, and I'm joined today by our Deputy Mayor Grace Ayling. Conversations is a new initiative. We thought it would be a great idea to have a bit of a podcast and update you all on different community initiatives that come out of council and resolutions that come out of our council meetings. We'll also chat with a CDC staffer about their role and some of the internal workings of council.
We know that not many people watch our 3-hour council meetings, but actually there's so much thinking that goes on behind the scenes, and I think this will be a longer format type thing where you can hear where we're coming from, and as time goes on it'll be great to have some feedback from the community and we can incorporate that into this podcast so we get a real dialogue going with our community and how we can best be representing them.
Absolutely, and part of that will be inviting different people from out in the community to come and be guests on our podcast. We'll be seeking your interest as we move on with this show. So let's get into it. First up, it was our draft annual plan that we approved at our last council meeting. Something great that came out of that was a rates percentage of 3.9%, which compared to our year 3 of our long-term plan, which was planned at, I think, 5.8%. Yeah. I think council has done extremely well, and especially considering the ongoing cost of living crisis and the new fuel crisis that we're going through at the moment and the price of fuel and everything. If we can try and keep any rises to a minimum, it's going to help everyone across the community.
I think it's been really encouraging just seeing the shift in the last few years. I've been on council now, just seeing the shift in our council in the way that we're constantly just looking at, okay, where can we cut costs? How can we make this council function to the standard that the community needs, but none of the frivolous stuff? And so we look at that annual increase and it's a number that I'm quite happy to be supporting. So that's really exciting to see where we're getting to as a council. One of the benefits of this park upgrade is the fact that this isn't something that is coming at a cost in the rates this year or anything like that. So it's money that's been set aside over like 20 years in this development contributions pot of money that has built up over these years, and we can only spend it on parks and reserves. And so it seemed like a no-brainer to make sure that our main centrepiece of town was something that we could be proud of. And as a mum of nearly 3, I spend a heck of a lot of time at the park, so I'm looking forward to seeing the new park in summertime.
As does one of our other councillors, Lou Newman, who has 4 young children, and they absolutely love Carrington Park as well. Yep. They're completed as well. So I think it will be an amazing draw card for Carterton, and we look forward to the new skate park alongside the actual playground equipment being upgraded. Alongside that, we have economic development, which the council is looking to create a new economic development committee. And we voted on who's going to be leading that on behalf of council, and it is going to be Councillor Newman.
Yep.
And she will be supported by Councillor Casey and Councillor
Lawrence.
Councillor Lawrence?
Yeah, Steve and Lou.
Yeah, and we think that's a great selection. We have Steve Lawrence, who owns Elmo's, and he has seen High Street stay practically the same for a considerable period of time, and he's recognised that there needs to be some kind of economic development group to actually push forward and encourage businesses to spend money on.
And that's tricky because council doesn't own these private businesses. We can't just go there and force them to paint. But we're hoping that setting up this committee will be a bit of a tool that creates momentum in the town where things start to go on the rise. And we've got people involved who are particularly passionate around our council table, and now we're looking to the community saying, if this is something that you're interested in, we're looking for expressions of interest. There's a info@cdc.gov.nz. Flick your details through if it's something that you're interested in. We want to hear your great ideas for our town because, we know it could do with a spruce up.
There's going to be a look at the Wainawa Industrial Park as well, and seeing how we can encourage businesses to move to or set up in Wainawa. And I think we have some key stakeholders within that, which are iwi, who are considering investing in the new Wainoa water storage project, which is actually on hold at the moment. I see external investment as being a extremely positive tick for our council to hopefully move forward with it.
Talk about Wainoa quite often as being the jewel in our crown and this untapped potential out there for the industrial space and the businesses that we can imagine could come flocking in. In council we have these quite informative meetings regularly about, civil defence and emergency preparedness and all this kind of thing. And we're all well aware of the state of our country with earthquakes and tsunami risks and all this kind of thing. And we know that over the other side of the hill, they're running out of industrial land fast. And we've got Petone and Gracefield, that whole area, where it's not in the best location really. And so we've got beautiful prime real estate that we could be utilising far better. And so if council invests in that water, hopefully the businesses will come a-flocking.
It's certainly a positive thing that was identified in the future growth strategy. The Wairarapa and Wainoa was identified as the industrial growth area for the Wellington region, with around 695 hectares available of land. So there's plenty of room for expansion there.
We've just had Easter weekend. The balloons, what a awesome thing to have in the Wairarapa every year. It's such an exciting thing. Like, just even looking out your window at 8 o'clock in the morning and you go, oh, it's casual balloons flying past the house. It's very special. And the park was packed on Friday morning, yeah.
I went to the official gathering on the Thursday night between the pilots and the crew, and I had a little bit of a speech, and I said how fantastic it is to have you back in the Wairarapa because so many people walk around now and they've got their head down. And I said how the balloons just get everyone to lift their heads and they're looking up, and it's
true.
It's just all the colours on a bright blue day is just magical. So it's one thing that I know that their funding is ending this year, and it's something that council will need to look at, is how we support that event. Yeah, the composting trial is moving along very well. We're at the stage of confirming the tests, and we're waiting for them to come through, because that will prove whether we can continue with or move on from the trial and actually
roll this out.
I'm looking forward to seeing how that testing goes, because I think it is a hugely positive project for not just Carterton, but potentially for the whole Wairarapa, where we could become the composting district, I guess. But if it generates great revenue for our ratepayers, I think we should be moving forward with it.
Yeah, Steve very kindly put me on the waste minimisation committee for the Wellington region, so now I'm part of this bigger picture thinking about waste for the whole region. And it's quite concerning, the fact that across our region people literally bag up the solid matter from our wastewater treatment plants, and it just gets stored and goes to the tip basically, which seems like the worst possible outcome for what humans create. And our council are doing this amazing process where we're turning that solid waste into compost, so quite future thinking, and it just seems like smart way of dealing with a stinky problem.
Well, I mean, this has taken a small portion of our sludge out of one of our ponds, and we have 3 ponds which are in need of clearing out, desludging. So the outcome of this trial it could really change fortunes for how we deal with our sludge, because putting it in bags, as you say, it's unacceptable really. So if we can help our neighbours out in that regard, then I'm all for it. Yeah. So, Grace, there's a couple of questions here I'm curious about. What brought you to local government?
Grew up in Paetua, so a small town, very similar to, much smaller than Carterton really, but similar to Carterton. And I was always really interested in politics. I was this weird 7-year-old who, on a school trip, went to Parliament and sat in question time. And I just remember falling in love in question time, thinking this was the coolest place ever, and I wanted to be a politician. And I went back that year to school, and we had speeches, and I got up in front of the whole school and gave a speech about when I was going to be the Prime Minister. And so that was always my plan from when I was a little kid, that I wanted to work in politics. And I didn't really know what that meant, so I went to uni and studied politics because I thought that seems like an obvious path. A few years later, I got a job in Parliament as a staffer, and I actually worked for the local MP here in the Wairarapa, Alistair Scott, so I was in his office for 3 years in Parliament. And I've always been interested in who makes decisions and how the heck do they get the responsibility to make these decisions and what are they doing and how could I be involved. I always wanted to work in politics. I thought, I don't know about central government, but maybe council might be my area of interest. And so I bought a house out in Carterton 7 years ago now with my husband. And when we moved here, we didn't do a lot of background research. I'd driven through Carterton my whole life, going between Paeatua and Wellington, and I thought, oh yeah, it's a town of the Wairarapa, it looks nice. And yeah, settled in Carterton, didn't realise that we were 5% of the population demographic. There's no 20-year-olds in Carterton, it seemed at the time. I'm going, okay, we haven't come to the most obvious place for 20-year-olds, but we wanted to buy a house and we wanted to have that small town community. Standing for council came about a few years in. I was working for the Taxpayers Union, which I think was a bit of a dirty word around our table because the Taxpayers Union published this annual survey where it said that Carterton Council had the highest rates. I was like, hang on, that's where I live. And so that really got me keen to come and see what was happening over here, and stood for council, asked a bunch of questions. And it was like Steve said, when I first started in council, I was there and I just keep putting up my hand and asking question after question. It's been cool, and I've been deputy now for 6 months, and as Steve asked me to be his deputy, I was like, well, I've got to tell you something, Steve. And in our little coffee, I said, 9 months I'm going to be having a baby. You don't have to pick me as your deputy. Find someone else. And he's like, no, it doesn't change anything. I want to work with you. And so here we are at the 9-month point, and we'll see how the next few weeks go. But yeah, it's been a cool time on council so far.
What, alongside being the deputy mayor, what does a normal week look like for you, and what are the parts that people don't usually see?
I spend a lot of time at the Carrington Park pushing kids on swings. My son, who is 4, is very, when I go off to council, they're like, bye mum, have fun being the deputy mayor. And they know that I'm involved with council decisions and stuff, and they know that the park was one of the things that we were talking about recently, and I've shown my son the plans, and he's not so happy because there's no flying fox in the new plan. And he said, well, Mum, can you go talk to the mayor, go talk to Steve and tell him that we need the flying fox at our house because the new park doesn't have one. So we'll have to have a talk about that, I think, Steve. I'm full-time mum. This is my main gig. My husband and I also own a vineyard in Masterton. So when we're not thinking about politics, we're thinking about harvesting and pruning and employing a few different people down at our vineyard.
Which even 9 months pregnant,
yes.
You've been out helping to remove grapes off the vine.
We were meant to record this podcast last week, but I did my back in because I was too keen to be seen to be a strong, independent woman who could do harvest at 9 months pregnant, but it turned out my back disagreed.
Can you think offhand what's probably one of the most rewarding things so far for you on council in your 4 years so far?
Most rewarding, there's been lots of small things along the way that have felt like accomplishments. I think one of the things that I'm most pleased with is the way that our council has changed in the last year or so. I just think everyone who reads newspapers saw that our council wasn't always aligned in our thinking, and I think we've got a team around our table now who are just really working and gelling really nicely together. One of the things that I think is so cool about Carterton compared to the rest of the country is the turnout that we get for our elections. Like, we have a good number of people stand for candidates, and then we have a huge number of our population who actually vote. Whereas you look at most of New Zealand and barely anyone turns up, and as someone who's a political nerd, it frustrates the heck out of me that people just don't get involved and don't care. And that's just not the case. It does have a tangible difference if you put in good people around the table who are all there for the right reasons and are willing to ask all good questions. It makes a difference.
Probably the last one I want to ask, Grace, is just what do you love most about Carterton?
Carterton's first thing is most obvious to me is Carterton's beautiful. I just think every time I'm driving down the road and driving between the towns, I just think what an amazing place to get to live. And I've been lucky enough to travel a bit overseas, And when I come back to Carterton, I'm like, yes, this is where I want to base my life. It's something really special. Small town New Zealand is ideal. And I think the more crazy the world gets, the more thankful I am to be living here in Carterton. And the people are really friendly. I remember when I first moved from living in Wellington, coming to the new world, and everyone being like, oh, after you in the supermarket. And I thought, wow, everyone's talking to me and, getting out of my way, and are very polite and friendly. Like in Wellington, you're just ramming your trolleys into each other. So, it's a friendly, lovely, beautiful place to live.
Being born here, I'm a little bit parochial about Carterton, but I also think we've had some amazing change in town just over the recent years, and some of my favourite places to go are still here. Urla, for example, I just think Urla is an incredible new vineyard or cafe type restaurant place with an amazing outlook over a beautiful pond, and I hope more people go and enjoy that. But one of my favourite places to go is called Mount Dick, which is up Kaipatangata, up where our waterworks are, and you can drive right up to the top of the track, and there's a Lions lookout up there. But just the view out over the whole Wairarapa and over Carterton specifically is just amazing.
Yep.
So I suggest to everyone friends of ours who come from other parts of the country to visit us, I will happily drive them up there just to show them the view overlooking Carterton, because it's one of my favourite spots. We are expecting a
special guest
to come in. Hey, Solitaire.
Welcome to the hot seat.
Hello there, Cretney. Good to be here.
Please come and have a seat. Solitaire's one of our CDC staffers. Has an incredible following across the Wairarapa because of her amazing regulatory and services department. So welcome, Solitaire.
Thank you, Mayor Cretney.
Just tell us a little bit about what you actually do and a little bit of what you do outside of council.
That's going to get fun.
I'm the Group Manager of Planning and Regulatory here, so my role and the team's role is really all about making sure that our district's safe, development, building, animal control, environmental health, it all happens in a way that's well planned and aligned with what our community wants. So that's our main focus. It's a very small team, but we do say small and mighty. Very approachable team. We have a good sense of humour, and we just really try our best for the district. Outside of work, I'm a little bit mad on showing my little miniature smooth dachshunds at dog shows around the country, and also training for competitive rock and roll competitions and then line dancing for fun.
I've seen a bit of your line dancing up the show, and yeah, you are very, very good, I've got to say. Lots of practice, I'm guessing.
Lots of practice, and just a really awesome little private dance studio here in Carterton called the Dance Shed Studio.
That's cool.
It's been going for 20 years, so...
Wow.
Getting back to your role on council, I must say, having been in the construction industry for around 35 years, I can honestly say that Carterton is the best council to deal with when it comes to building consenting, having inspectors come out onto site and everything, and it hasn't changed. And I must say, dealing with our neighbours just can be so difficult. And I'm not sure if that's changed or not, because I haven't drawn plans for a couple of years now. So I can honestly say just thank you on behalf of the community and the construction sector for how you and your team operate. It's fantastic.
Our consents department and Solitaire's team, and how they work so well.
Is there anything you're working on right now which matters a lot for Carterton?
Probably, because there's such a huge focus on the regulatory and planning processes and just trying to keep pace with the growth. Like, we have had astronomical growth here in our district, which is amazing, but we want to support the new housing and development, but we also really recognise that Carterton is quite unique, and we want to protect what people do value about that district. So it's very trying to do it in that managed way. We're also working really hard to try and streamline our processes and just navigate the multitude of legislation that's been thrown at us right now.
All of that flows through into your work on the district plan.
So what we'll be doing starting in May, we're looking at getting into some mediation with some of the appellants, federated farmers, heavy haulage, just to really try and work out where there are still disagreement, because the least amount of matters we can take to a court is the better outcome for everybody.
A common misconception about council work in your area?
I would say that a common misconception, just generally in the public, is that regulatory teams are there to say no.
Meanies.
In reality, our job is actually about helping people understand the rules early and let's find the workable solutions. We want to make sure people's projects can happen. We don't go in there with this, let's find a way to prevent you doing what you want to do. I think if people realise that the work's collaborative, we want to ensure those good outcomes and not block them. So come and talk to us. We're actually really friendly, and we will spend the time to work through, and we will identify potential issues up front and, how can we work through these solutions? We can't design your plans for you, but we can guide you in the right direction.
What's your favourite place in Carterton?
I do have to say it's pretty nice as an officer and one of the managers to be sitting in those council meetings. You've got a great team around you and they're asking all the right questions, and it's great to be able to present those reports, know that they've been read and that the questions coming out of them are well thought of. I would probably have to say Mount Dick. You get up the top of that hill and you look out and you see the entire Wairarapa Valley. I'm from Featherston, so being able to go anywhere and you can also see all the way down to Lake Wairarapa is pretty special. I think the views up there are just outstanding.
Best coffee in town? Do you even drink coffee?
I actually think we're pretty spoilt for choice, actually. We've got a range of cafes, Kāinga, Almo's, Aunt Ginger's, Wild Oats, Clearville. And I have to say, I don't think I've had a bad coffee in town.
I can agree, and I'll even throw in Cafe Olé there. Della, I'll say. She makes very good coffee as well.
Excellent. I'll have to try it next time I'm there for a pie.
One local event that you never miss?
Oh, it's got to be Daffodil Festival. I did, even though we were working, because we just volunteer our time as staff here just to help on the day. And towards the end of the day, jumped on the bus and went out to Middle Run and came back with a few daffodils. So it was lovely to be able to experience that part of it as well.
Nice.
One of the fun things about Solitaire that people may not know is that she's served on both sides of this organisation. She was a counsellor down in South Wye a few years ago. So I think it's such a valuable insight that she has when she has been on both sides of that table, because it can be a bit of a divide between the staff, management and the councillors. Our competing interests at times, and I think Solly can bridge that divide and understand where we're coming from. And when we're asking the hard questions, Solly never flinches because she knows that she would have been the one asking the hard questions not so long ago.
A hidden gem apart from Mount Dick?
Friday night dances at Club Carter. Every second Friday you've got like Lance Naismith, or you have Wayne Heath will play up in the bar, and you can get 40 odd people down on the lower dance floor, line dancing, rock and roll, some ballroom. It's just really cool to have a venue that's big enough to be able to do that. And I just think a lot of people don't realise it's there and it happens. So come down on a Friday night if people want to dance. Even just watch the dancing's pretty cool for people.
What's something you'd tell a visitor to do here? And you can't say drive up Mount Dick or go to Club Carterton line dancing.
I'd probably say enjoy the dark sky. Go to Sky Safari or Stonehenge at night. We're in the middle of this amazing dark sky reserve and it's really beginning to take off, but I think those two places are just fantastic.
Agree. The Lonely Planet Award and so forth. So, big opportunities there.
And it's something that when you've been born and bred in the Wairarapa, we probably don't appreciate it as much as what an international visitor or somebody that lives in a city that's never seen.
Total light pollution constantly.
We're kind of used to it.
We have some incredible photographers in the Wairarapa too who have taken some amazing shots of the Milky Way. Thank you so much, Sol, for coming in and sharing with us. And we know that you're a busy lady in your team, so thank you.
We've survived our first podcast.
We have, Grace. We've got a couple of things we want to just finish off with, and that's we want to thank everyone out in the community who took part in our survey. Approximately 150 responses to it, and the comms team are actually analysing all that data at the moment and will present a report to us that we can go through and
get all that feedback.
Absolutely. And
that'll all be channeled into the decisions we're making in our long-term plan. Valuable feedback, so it's great to have the community engaged like that.
Thanks for joining us, and catch us for the next one. Cheers.
Thank you.